In the last 15 years, how we consume has drastically changed. 15 years ago, the majority of our consumption was done in the physical world. We shopped at malls, we put on records, and we watched movies at the theater. However, nowadays, the majority of our consumption is done in the digital world. We scroll on our phones through Amazon to buy stuff. We pull up Spotify on our phones to listen to music, and we stream Netflix on our couch. And in the process of this transition from the physical to digital world, we've lost something. Consumerism isn't as fun anymore. I think we can all agree that shopping on Amazon isn't as fun as walking through a store. Listening to music on Spotify isn't as fun as putting on a vinyl record. And watching Netflix at your house isn't as fun as going to the theater. Something is off. You don't get the same amount of satisfaction consuming in the digital world as you do in the physical world. Digital consumption makes everything feel a bit more empty. And why is that? Well, in this video, I want to talk about 7 things that we've lost while consuming in the digital world and why consuming isn't as fun as it used to be. And the first thing that we have lost is the journey of buying. So if you remember, back in the day, if you wanted to buy something, the only way that you could do it was to leave your house and go somewhere. Which made consuming not just about getting something, but it was this journey where you got many other experiences along the way. For example, when I was a kid, I remember going to the mall to buy clothes. And my family would get in a car. We would drive to the mall, spend 10 minutes looking for a parking spot, look at the directory for stores, walk through a few stores to try on clothes, eat lunch at the food court, visit some more stores to try on clothes, interact with the cashier, and drive home talking about the day at the mall. Shopping at the mall wasn't just about buying clothes, but it was this big day out where we created rich memories on top of getting what we needed. However, nowadays, shopping is all about convenience. It's about being able to just sit on your couch at home, scroll through an abundance of options while watching Netflix, and get what you want shipped to your house in 2 days. And although it's more convenient, it doesn't feel as good as going out into the physical world and collecting all these small experiences along the journey. But it's these small experiences that ultimately make it. Like my favorite experience is stopping in the middle of the trip and relaxing over a warm cup of coffee with some company. I love the ritual of drinking a cup of coffee, but lately I've noticed that I just can't drink as much coffee as I used to because it makes me feel anxious, bloated, and just makes me crash in the afternoon. And so recently, I've been looking for an alternative to have that same comforting ritual without all the downsides, which is why I'm excited to talk about Peaks Nandika, who is the sponsor of today's video. Now, Nandika is not just a coffee alternative, but it's a step above coffee. It's a fermented probiotic tea made of mushrooms that helps you create sustained energy and focus throughout the day without the negative effects of drinking coffee. It's crafted with 100% fruiting body mushrooms that support energy, focus, and longevity, compared to most brands that use mycelium, which has a lower potency and contains grain. So it has the purest, highest quality ingredients with no fillers, preservatives, or junk. And it comes in these small packets. And all you have to do is mix it with 10 ounces of hot water, froth it with the Peak frother, and it's ready to drink. It tastes like spice cream cacao, and compared to coffee, it gives you sustained energy throughout the day with no crash. You don't have the acidic stomach feeling, and it helps you avoid cravings of sugar and snacks throughout the day. And so if you're tired of feeling wired tired and constantly running on fumes throughout the day, give Nandika a try by clicking on the link in my description or go to peaklife.com/Austin to get 20% off and a free starter kit of a rechargeable frother and glass beaker. And Peak also backs their products up by giving a 90-day money-back guarantee so you can try it risk-free. And so thank you so much, Peaks Nandika, for sponsoring this video. Now, the second thing that we have lost is tangible experiences. Now again, back in the day when we consumed in the physical world, what also made it rich was everything we consumed was tangible. It was stuff that we could touch and feel, like a record, a book, or a DVD. And there's something about the tangibility of physical possessions that makes things seem just better, because it's like getting a vinyl record and admiring the art cover, removing the plastic covering, going through the lyric book, and putting on the needle to listen to the entire record. Being able to interact with physical possessions made things more enjoyable and made things feel more real. Whereas now, everything is digital and intangible. Everything is for convenience. Where you open up Spotify on your phone, pick a song, and change it before it ends. Instead of getting a tangible experience, you're just listening to music. You're overlooking all these minor details that ultimately make the item much richer. And because of that, you don't appreciate it as much and it doesn't seem as fun. Now, the third thing that we've lost is limited options. So last week, I went clothes shopping at the mall. I got this shirt. But when I go shopping, I prefer to shop in person because it's a lot more easy and a lot less overwhelming. You just go to your favorite store and look at a handful of clothing that they have. And when you find something you like, you can also touch and feel it to see if it's good quality. And then happily leave the store with a few items you bought and get pretzels with cheese at Annie's while you're at it. Shopping in person is easy and it's not overwhelming. Nowadays, though, most shopping is done online. However, this has created a much more overwhelming experience because you are flooded by an abundance of options to look through. And once you see an item you might buy, you're also overwhelmed reading through dozens of reviews to see if it's good quality. And 1 hour later, you finally buy a t-shirt. And this is the world we live in, where we have so many options that it's so hard to make a decision to do anything, which makes the experience of consuming less enjoyable because you're flooded with so many options to choose from. It's overwhelming and you don't feel as good as the simplicity of just interacting in person with a handful of limited options. The fourth thing we've lost is exposure to the unknown. Another thing that we have lost in this transition to consuming in the digital world is being exposed to things that we wouldn't figure out on our own. For example, back in the day, people discovered new music by walking through a physical music store, looking through albums, and talking to the staff. And in that experience, you might be exposed to something that you wouldn't seek out on your own, like the music store worker recommending you an album that you've never heard of that you start to love. Experiences were more human, and people would introduce us to things that we wouldn't seek out on our own, whereas now, everything is controlled by algorithms. And these algorithms want to keep us engaged, so they keep feeding us things we're familiar with. You don't discover anything new because something new, something different might make you less engaged. It might make you leave the platform. And because we're never exposed to unknown things, we don't get that exciting feeling of discovering a completely new genre of something. And so everything just seems average. Everything seems like a tiny variation of something that we have already experienced, and it doesn't seem fun anymore. The fifth thing we've lost is ownership. Now, a huge thing that has changed in this transition from the physical to digital world is going from an ownership model to a subscription model, where before, everything we bought, like CDs, DVDs, and books, we were the owner of. And there's a certain pride that comes with ownership, saying, these are my things. Whereas now, everything is digital that we subscribe to, like Spotify, Netflix, and Kindle, and we don't have that pride and ownership that it's ours. It doesn't feel as exciting because we're just borrowing it from someone. We're not the true owners, and so it's not as fun saying that these are my things. It just feels like blah. And the sixth thing that we've lost is physical limitations. Another fond memory that I had back in the day before we lived our lives through a screen was not having an abundance of everything, because there's this beauty with limitations. For example, back in the day you had a disposable camera and had 20 pictures to take, so you considered every time you took a picture, and when you got them developed, you truly took the time to enjoy them, and years later you enjoyed them more because there were only a handful of them. Whereas now, because everything is digital, we don't have any limitations, and we have hundreds of pictures on our phones that we don't appreciate because there are so many of them. We don't feel as good with digital stuff because it's not real, and there's no limit to how much we can have, whereas in the physical world, there is a limit to possessions, and so we end up enjoying and appreciating them a lot more because there's beauty with limits. And the final thing that we have lost is humanity. So as I said in the beginning of this video, in the last 15 years, how we have consumed has drastically changed. We quit consuming in the physical world and now consume in the digital world. And with that transition, we have made a trade. We have traded our humanity for convenience. In the last 15 years, we have traded the big day out at the mall for 2 days shipping on Amazon. We've traded limited physical items we own for endless digital items we subscribe to. And we've traded genuine human recommendations for algorithms trying to keep us engaged. And so the reason that consumerism isn't fun anymore is because it's lost the human touch. Nothing feels real because everything is done through a screen. And until we start embracing the physical world more, nothing we buy will feel good and everything will just feel bland. And those are the 7 things that we have lost through digital consumerism. And with that, muchas gracias, que tengan un buen día. Nos vemos, chicos.